What's up YouTube, this is FJ and I'm very excited to bring you this video. I actually tried to film this video before. This isn't my first attempt, but I just wasn't happy with the structure of that video. I didn't really have the proper breakdown for that video. So here it is again, and I'm also really excited to use my new camera setup. I've got a Sony RX100 now, and I'm using my TASCAM DR60D to record audio with a couple microphones. So hopefully the quality of these videos are a lot better for you guys now. Also, before anyone else asks, it's called vitiligo. In my other video where I try to explain how to buy a snowboard based on size, you guys ask me what's up with my face, the white splotches on my face. It's called vitiligo. There's a link in the description of the video, and you can also see that video on my main channel, FJ5. Anyway guys, so you're watching this video because you want to know how to buy a snowboard, or you need some advice on what to look for when you're choosing your snowboard. Before I go on, I just want to make sure you realize that this is just my personal opinion. I've been riding for about 8 years now, and I've tried many different snowboards. Granted, I've been riding mainly in Ontario, a couple trips out west, and a few trips out east to Vermont. But mainly I ride on groomers, hard pack snow, so I don't have a lot of experience with powder and like really fluffy snow. But over the years I've built up a lot of experience trying different snowboards, so hopefully my advice will help you guys out today. So guys, I'm going to go over 4 main points when you're choosing your snowboard. First one, which is sizing. This video isn't really going to go over that again. I've already made that video before. If you haven't seen it, it's called Snowboarding 101, What Size Snowboard Should I Buy? It's supposed to help you guys choose what size snowboard based on your weight, your height, skill level, and terrain. Have a look at that video. The link is in the description. This will just help you guys choose what range of snowboards in terms of size you should be looking at. I'm not going to go over that again in this video. It's all over there. Have a click in the link, and you guys can come back here once you've chosen your size. Okay, so that's point number 1, is sizing. The second point in choosing a snowboard is your skill level. So there's beginner, intermediate, advanced, and expert. I'm going to try to go over each of those categories, and at the same time I'm going to talk about 2 specific characteristics of snowboards that you can look for in that skill category. So I'm going to talk about flex, and I'm going to talk about shape. So if you're a beginner, you don't have a lot of experience snowboarding, you're still learning how to turn, you're going to want a board that's forgiving. And so that's a board that's not going to be too limiting and restricting for you in terms of stiffness, so you want to go for a soft snowboard. Something considered to have a low flex rating, anywhere between a 1 to a 4, let's say. The lower the flex rating, the more forgiving it would be for you. As you progress as a rider into intermediate and advanced, my personal recommendation is to go for something stiffer as you get better. When you're a beginner snowboarder, you don't really know how things feel like on a snowboard yet. So when you have a soft snowboard for beginners, it's more forgiving, but because of that, it's also less responsive. But as you go higher in stiffness on a snowboard, it becomes more responsive and it becomes less forgiving. But as you progress as a rider and you gain experience and you develop your skills as a snowboarder, you're not going to need that forgiveness from your snowboard, and you're going to want more performance attributes coming from it, like better pop. Stiffness can also help with stability when you're going in higher speeds. Generally, higher performance snowboards are stiffer snowboards. Just look at all pro snowboarders now. Most of them ride anywhere between mid to high flex ratings so that they can really take advantage of attributes that come from the snowboard. If you're a beginner, go with something soft. If you are intermediate to advanced, start looking at mid to higher flex ratings, something a little bit on the stiffer side. And if you're an expert rider, you don't really need to watch this video. You already know what you're looking for, but you're probably looking for something very stiff and very responsive in terms of your snowboard. So that's the spectrum in terms of flex. In terms of shape, this is more of my personal opinion based on all the different snowboards that I've tried over the years and how I developed as a rider. If you're a beginner and you don't know how to turn and you're just really fresh out there and you don't know what snowboard to buy, the best snowboard to use first is a rocker snowboard, rocker or reverse camber. When you ride a rocker board, it actually promotes you to want to turn a little bit more, but it makes it a lot easier to initiate your turns as a beginner. Rocker boards also tend to be softer in flex, and because it has one long contact point in between your feet rather than 2 separate contact points with traditional camber, you are a little less likely to catch an edge as a beginner if you're riding a rocker snowboard. Again, this is just my personal opinion. I'm not saying that you can't learn how to snowboard on a camber. I learned actually on a 0 camber and a camber snowboard in my first couple of seasons. I'm just saying, if you're looking for something that's going to be very easy for you, you don't want to be discouraged as a beginner in your first time riding out, definitely go for a rocker or reverse camber snowboard. As you progress, again, from beginner, now you're looking at intermediate to advanced riding, My personal preference is to switch over to camber. You know, you could sort of transition into maybe zero camber first, but ultimately I think camber, traditional camber snowboards, bends upward in the middle between your feet, are the best snowboards out there. The pop on camber is way better than rocker because you have two separate contact points at the end of the snowboard. You have more stability at higher speeds. It just tends to not want to be so loose when you're riding. That's when your board kind of promotes you to want to turn without you even wanting to turn. Rocker snowboards tend to do that. Camber snowboard, you have two contact points outside your feet, so it definitely feels locked in when you're holding a carve or when you're charging straight on an edge. And again, if you're an advanced to expert snowboarder, you don't really need me to tell you what shape to get. But chances are you like traditional camber. When you go to zero camber though, or when you get into the hybrid shapes, it's a bit more experimental. They're definitely a lot of fun. They're really trying to address the middle ground, and that's fine. I just found that over the years of trying those different snowboards, I always found myself gravitating back to traditional camber. So there you guys have it. The second point is going over your skill level. Most of you guys watching this video are probably beginners, so you're probably going to lean more towards a soft rocker snowboard. But if you are intermediate going into advanced riding and you're done with renting snowboards or borrowing snowboards and you want to buy your first or maybe your second snowboard, I do want to promote going towards something a little bit more stiff and with a camber shape. Just for examples guys, if you're looking for particular snowboards with certain specs, being a Thrive coach, I want to promote Thrive line. They are great snowboards. So if you're a beginner, look at the Thrive Accomplice, okay? It is a soft rocker shaped board and it's very forgiving for new riders and beginners. If you are intermediate going into advanced riding and you don't really want to switch over to a camber snowboard, go for the Thrive Renegade. It is a hybrid rocker, so it's rocker in between the feet and then camber zones just outside the feet. Again, the middle ground in between. It's a really fun snowboard as well. But if you are advanced to expert riding, definitely go for the Thrive Relentless. It is the stiffest board Thrive makes and is also a traditional camber snowboard. I also like when the camber zone in between your feet is nice and high. Gives you even more pop when you're doing ollies and you want to get off a big jump and get more air. I am a big fan of jumps, so I went with the Thrive Relentless. That's that one over there. That actually leads into a great next point in terms of snowboards, whether you want to go with directional or twin. Personally, I prefer twin. All my snowboards are actually twin shape, twin flex. I've tried other ones too, directional shape, directional flex, and because I want to develop myself as a freestyle rider, someone who can ride switch just as good as regular, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm close. I love having twin snowboards, true twin snowboards. So twin means it's the same flex going towards the nose or towards the tail, and it's a centered stance, so it's the same length towards the nose and towards the tail. So twin shape, twin flex, that is my go-to preference. I am an all-mountain type of rider. I do like to go in the park. I do like to go off-piste and go into some powder runs. That is just my personal preference to go for twin. But I have tried directional snowboards. I had a Burton Vapor, tried my friend's Burton Custom X, and other various directional snowboards, and they're great too. You know, if you're a beginner rider and you don't really want to focus too much on park or freestyle riding, it is a bit easier to turn when the tail of your snowboard is a bit shorter than the nose of your snowboard. There's just a little bit less resistance when you're doing the turn. So that's when a directional snowboard could actually be helpful for you. But if you want to be a rider that progresses into more freestyle riding, I do highly recommend going with a true twin snowboard. So that's twin shape and twin flex. And again, just to promote Thrive, guys, but all of Thrive snowboards are true twins. That's why I love those boards. And now, guys, the third point that I want to go over is your terrain. This point's pretty self-explanatory, guys. There are really three main categories of snowboards out there. So there's a freestyle, park kind of snowboard, then you've got the all-mountain snowboard in the middle, and then you have free ride. Based on what you want to ride, look towards those three categories. Park, freestyle board, look for boards that are considered park. All mountain, you want to sometimes ride park, but you can still take it out in the trails off-piste and doing tree runs. It's again, trying to address the middle ground. And then finally, free ride is really geared towards those who like to go backcountry. They don't like to go in the park at all if they go heliboarding or catboarding or things like that. So a lot of snowboarding companies out there now will try to promote a particular model on their line that says it's the one snowboard that you need in your quiver that will kill all terrain. And I really think that's more so a marketing gimmick than truth. If you want to focus on something in the park, then you should really get a park board. Or if you want to focus more on free riding, then get a powder or a free ride board. Those boards that they try to market that will do everything is an all-mountain snowboard. If you're like me and you go into a resort, you get kind of bored with the trails sometimes, so you like to hop a couple laps in the park, do some features, do some tricks, and then after that, maybe you're not so advanced into the park, so you go back and you do more regular trails. Again, it's trying to fulfill that middle ground. Because it's a snowboard that's meant to tackle a lot of things, it's really not the perfect snowboard for just the one thing. Like myself, like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. So if you get an all-mountain snowboard, it's not the perfect snowboard for, let's say, park, or it's not the perfect snowboard for free riding. For example, in the park, generally riders like to have a softer snowboard if you're doing a lot of features like rails and boxes, or you're jibbing off a lot of things. There's a very small margin of error when you're doing things like that, so it's nice to have a little bit of forgiveness. But on the other side of the spectrum is free riding. You're probably going to want a snowboard that's stiffer, it's shaped specifically for free riding, so the nose is larger and it's got a shorter tail, something more specific for free riding. An all-mountain snowboard that tries to address all those things isn't going to be perfect for park, or it's not going to be perfect for free riding. Take, for example, this DC Media Blitz. This is a snowboard that DC came out with, Torstein's Pro model, that was supposed to tackle everything from park to POW. It's a great all-mountain snowboard for sure. It's my favorite right now. Stiff, it's actually mid-wide, so it gives you a little bit more surface area, but because it's mid-wide, you can go a little bit shorter on the length for it as well. A shorter snowboard gives you less swing weight, so it's easier to spin for park features or if you like to do jumps. It is a bit stiff for the park, and on the other end, it does handle itself in powder when I went out to Whistler, and it does handle itself when you're charging down a hill, but it is a twin shape, twin flex, so it's definitely not going to be as good in powder as a directional snowboard with a longer nose and shorter tail. If you are a park-specific boarder and you just want to spend 100% of time in the park, I wouldn't suggest getting an all-mountain snowboard. And if you are 100% going on powder, if you like to go off helicopters or cat skiing or cat riding, off-piste, heavy snow, I wouldn't suggest an all-mountain snowboard for that either. So hopefully you get what I'm trying to say here, guys. I'm kind of just repeating myself. Just to recap, the first point was sizing, and I've got a whole video dedicated to explain what size you should get for a snowboard. The second point is your skill level. So we've gone over beginner, intermediate, advanced, and expert. My recommendations for snowboards based on your skill level, and we went a little bit deeper into it based on the particular aspects of a snowboard, such as flex, camber shape or rocker shape, and directional versus twin. And the third point that we went over was your terrain, if you want to go towards the park, all mountain, or free ride. I basically tried to cover all the spectrums in terms of snowboarding, and I know I tend to talk a lot in these videos, so forgive me guys if you find them just a bit too wordy. Having said that, guys, into my fourth point, and really the most deciding point whenever you're purchasing a snowboard, is your budget. How much money do you have to buy this snowboard? Some people might put this in the beginning of the list. That's how I shop. I always think about how much money that I'm willing to spend before I go and spend it. Lately, my method of purchasing has been just going into a snowboard shop, looking at what the deals are, and then deciding if I'm willing to spend that on that particular snowboard. If you have a very limited budget, you got to think too, as a beginner, you're not just buying a snowboard, you got to think about boots and bindings and pants and a jacket and all the accessories, gloves, goggles, hats or helmet. So there's a lot of stuff to spend. This is a very expensive hobby. I actually joke about that sometimes. We pay a lot of money just to slide down a hill. Basically, this is the adult version of tobogganing or sledding. So there you guys have it. Size, skill level, terrain or type of riding, and of course budget. I know this video has been long enough, but there's a reason why I'm making this video compared to all the other how to buy a snowboard videos out there. I've seen a lot, and the reason why I made this one about my personal recommendations to what those specs are for your snowboard is because I found those other ones just really go over a particular brand, whether it be Liebtech, GNU, Burton, or even just going through an entire line if you're one of those snowboarding stores that have their own YouTube channel and they just introduce you to a whole bunch of snowboards all the time, every time a new one's released. Those are great for introducing you guys to new tech out there and to new models and to all these awesome innovations that they have for snowboards. But I just really wanted to bring it down to characteristics to help you guys choose your snowboard, trying to minimize bias in terms of brand. I know I'm a Thrive coach and I've mentioned the Thrive snowboard line, but that doesn't mean that I only ride Thrive. You guys know that I'm a DC fanboy and I recently picked up a Burton Process too. I'm not partial to one particular brand. You know, some commenters out there have been asking me what brand should they go for. And I don't really want to push someone towards a particular brand because again, it comes down to your budget. You know, Burton's a great brand, Liebtech is a great brand, GNU, DC, Nitro, Rome, Never Summer, Endeavor, Yes, Lobster, Battalion. There's a whole bunch out there. I guess at my skill level now and my experience level, I tend to stay away from Firefly or 5150, kind of those lower tier snowboards. But I still would consider lower price snowboards out there like the Rossignol or K2. They make some great snowboards now too, and they're really starting to compete with higher priced models, which is great because it forces competition to bring down their prices a little bit more. Having mentioned all those models, of course I still want to promote Thrive. There's a reason why I'm a Thrive coach. I believe in their products too and their model. They were a company that started out actually when my snow channel just started as well, and it's great to see them developing their snowboards. They got a great lineup of snowboards that would help out a wide range of experience levels and demographics, and their models really do compete with the larger companies out there, mass production companies. If you want to support that, have a click on my Thrive link in the description as well. I've gone through a lot of information here, but if you still don't know what snowboard to buy, have a look at a couple snowboard sites that are really helpful. So what I like to look at is thegoodride.com. They review basically almost every snowboard out there. They have videos and scale ratings and descriptions on what they think about those snowboards. It's a very helpful website if you're looking at a lot of different gear and you just don't have the opportunity to go into multiple stores and looking at all these boards, and maybe you have to order online, so you need to do some research. And another website that I find really helpful that I use myself is Transworld. Every year they hold the Goodwood Awards. They test park boards, all mountain boards, and freeride boards. And every year they come up with a lineup of winners of their recommendation based on different price points as well, like the best value ones versus ones with no price cap. One particular snowboard I still don't have, but I've been wanting to get for a number of years now, is the Capita Defenders of Awesome, probably like a 152, 153. I've been looking at that snowboard for several years. It's won the Transworld Goodwood Award for a number of years now, and every time I want to buy it, you know, I go into a store, sometimes I see it, but it's still regular price. I don't want to pay regular price. I only like to buy things when they're on sale or on clearance, but by the time that board comes down in price, then they're all sold out. So Capita, if you want to hook me up with a Defenders of Awesome, that would be great. That would be awesome. I would love to do a review for you guys. If anyone wants to send me a Defenders of Awesome, I greatly appreciate it too. As if this video wasn't long enough, I figured now is a good time for me to go over my Quiver, my selection of snowboards. I've gone through probably over a dozen snowboards over the past years. One particular one that I kind of regret selling, but I just found that it was a bit too specific of a board, was the Burton Vapor 157. It was a bit long for me. The core was Alumafly, so it was like a metal core, aluminum. Super stiff, super light. It carved like a beast. I paired it with some really stiff carbon fiber bindings. I think they were C60s or something. That was an awesome setup, but I just found it was a bit too specific. It was directional, a bit too long for me, and you know, I like my freestyle twin-shaped boards, so I got rid of it. I kind of wish I didn't, but here it is, guys, my DC Media Blitz 150. This is my all-mountain snowboard. If I'm gonna go on a trip, this is the board that I would bring. When I went to Whistler, this is what I ended up bringing. As Torstein would say, would shred everything. I still took it in the park, and I went off-piste, and I went to some thick powder runs with it as well. Had a great time in Whistler with the DC Media Blitz. This, I've kept. This is my park-dedicated board. If I know I'm gonna spend an entire day just practicing in the park, this is my softest flex board. I actually lend this now to my girlfriend, one of my shorter, softest boards for her to learn switchback bindings without the high back. So that's my DC Ply 150.5, again, park specific snowboard. This was my most recent purchase, the Burton Process Limited Edition. This is a zero camber 155. This was just more experimental, guys. I really wanted to see how this board would perform being zero camber. It was a great deal, and it was a channel snowboard, so I couldn't resist. I've had a lot of fun with this snowboard. I kind of wish maybe that it was a 152, 153, because I want to try that length a bit more, but I'm having a great time with the 155. This is sintered base, extruded base. So for park boards, extruded bases are a bit more durable and they don't hold wax as well, but they can ride pretty good with less wax. Whereas sintered bases, you have to make sure that they're waxed really well in order to ride, otherwise they'll stick. And finally, guys, of course, is my Thrive Relentless. This is a 155. This is the board I will take if I know I'm going to spend an entire day off-piste. If I don't want to go in the park at all, I just want to charge hard on broom trails or powder. This is Thrive's stiffest board. Again, twin flex, twin shape. mid-wide. I have a lot of fun on this snowboard too. Pretty light and great pop. All these snowboards have awesome pop. The stiffer the snowboard though has the best pop. If you're still having questions about whether or not you should buy a snowboard, feel free to comment below. I do try my best to answer everyone that comments on all my videos. I'm not that popular yet, so I do spend the time to go through all my comments and reply. If I miss your comment, it's probably because it went in my spam and I don't get notifications of when things go in my spam, so forgive me if I take a really long time to respond. Sometimes I forget to check my spam and I don't get back to people for like a year. I'm really sorry about that. Having said that, I do appreciate all your feedback, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the quality of this video, trying out my new camera and my new audio recorder and mics. New lighting setup too here with all my snowboards. Kind of just a personal thing, but I enjoyed this t-shirt when I saw it in the store. It's live fast, stay strong, and be smart. Great message. Hopefully you click like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.